Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg, and welcome once again to a not so jovial Rip Roaring Reds. We're 24 hours removed from a spanking. Would you call it a spanking, Jace?
I'd call it. No, I wouldn't call it a spanking.
A mild tap on the buttock, maybe. A mild tap on the
buttock. A little burn. You know, when you like, when you're a bit too close to the hob, or like you catch yourself on something like really hot. Yeah,
little one
on
the stove. Don't want that.
We've been warned. We've been warned.
We have been warned. Well, if you're joining us for the first time and you want to join us for more stove and hob related other nonsense, then you'll come to the right place. It's the Rip Roaring Review. We're going to talk about Arsenal. We're going to talk about our loss to Aston Villa. If it's your first time here, do give this video a like. Do give it a subscribe so you can make sure you can tune in next time we are live. We are going to start the show like we start every show. It's the Rip Roaring Review, and I'm going to hand over to Jace, who's going to probably not have a positive one, I would imagine, because the last few have been relatively positive, and we're going to get slapped back down to earth in the only Arsenal way possible.
Well, look, we joked about my Rip Roaring Review being every Rip Roaring Review. It's like we're going to win the league, Rep. We're going to win the league. Look, obviously, I'm not going to say that on this Rip Roaring Review. I think, are we going to win the league? We're not going to win the league. I could keep going flip-flopping. I think we just had a bit of a reality check yesterday. Having that time to be removed allows you to not be so down and negative, but at the same time, I think it's a reality check. And what do I mean by that? Well, City are now at that point in the season. They don't drop points, not even draws. Like, we're talking wins. They're 3 point in every game. We'll talk a bit more about who they've got to play in a bit. Are we going to be that consistent? I don't think we are. And that's not to say that we're not good enough. It's just, we're just not, we're not at a point where we have a deep enough squad. That is what I saw yesterday. That is the key thing that I saw. We made some pivotal changes to that lineup because we needed to give players a rest. And we didn't take our chances. And then when we did bring players off the bench, they were not adequate enough to get the job done. And we've talked about this before. And I believe that is the reason we didn't win. Aston Villa had not much in the first half. We gave them one opportunity in the first half from a comical error. And then really it was poor errors, partly from some of our subs, in my opinion, as well, that led to some of the goals. In the last 10 minutes, it was a hit and run kind of job from Villa in the end of the game. Last 20 minutes. They played their tactics beautifully. So, yeah, my review is we're just not quite there. We're not quite there. I'm not going to go where we're not going to win the league. We're awful. What was that performance? We just need to go a level again. And we're seeing every year a level. And there's another level to go. That's what I'm taking away from it.
Do you think, because you mentioned the starting 11 and you mentioned the subs and all that kind of stuff, like, do you feel that there was changes in that starting 11? Maybe had an eye on Bayern, maybe wanted to rest some players, maybe did it for tactical reasons. Do you feel that starting 11 was the right choice?
I mean, we didn't necessarily worry when we saw the starting 11. I think the performance that we saw started to worry me. The midfield didn't look right. I think we talked about the absence a little bit of Declan. I don't know. We were both in the ground, right? Dec didn't stand out to me. He was also sitting back more. There was no Jorginho. We didn't bring Partey, and he's clearly not fit enough, or Arteta doesn't have faith enough to play him yet. And so we relied on Dec in there. And with no Martinelli, still, that would have been a great game to warm him up for Bayern if he was going to start him against Bayern. That was an absentee, in my opinion. And then Jesus down the middle. I think you touched upon this, right? And I'll give you a chance to elaborate on it. But putting Jesus down the middle, is that not going back to where we were at the beginning of the season when we were frustrated and we didn't quite click? We were scraping wins.
Yeah. I mean, I literally wrote a note to say we played a system here that we know has failed many times during the first half of the season, and we've gone into this game expecting it to perform a different result, and it hasn't. And for me, that is probably, I think this is the worst match of Arteta's game management I've ever seen, in my opinion. I just don't feel that he's adequately both looked at this game from a starting 11 standpoint and played the right team. Like, Havertz up top has been working. We know it's been working. Jorginho and Rice has been working. Look at all the games that we've played and the results we've been getting. I don't understand why he's reverted to that left 8 position for Havertz when we know it's not necessarily what's been working for us.
Hold up. Worst, really. Worst.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's not a lot to. I mean, some of the early stuff there's obviously, but he has the players here. We know the system works. I feel he's mismanaged this game. I feel he's walked into it with an eye on Bayern Munich, with a change he's wanted to make. And I love Arteta. I'm not going to get into a whole Arteta in, Arteta out argument, right? I'm not here for that type of content. What I'm here for, though, is just from what I can see and what I could tell on that pitch, the 11 didn't work, and the subs. I know we're going to get onto the subs, and the subs didn't work either. I just feel it was a really poor game management, in my opinion.
So, what would you start at then? What's your start?
I would have done I don't understand why we would need to change it up. There's enough in the tank that Jorginho could have played instead of Jesus, and then Havertz go up top, and you take off. I guess you'd either go Tross or Jesus on the wing, but like Jesus through the middle. I mean, me and you said that, and we're going to get onto this. Like,
no, let's not talk about it.
Wasn't at the races. Yeah. All right. I want to give you my view on there, because I know that you said I'm not going to say that we're out of it, but we're not quite there yet. For me, the pressure got to us yesterday. We knew, we were walking to the ground. We were watching that Liverpool game on our phone. Liverpool had just lost 1-0 to Crystal Palace, and there was resounding cheers by the Tolly as we're walking up to the ground, right? A big cheers, all of that. And it was like, there's an opportunity here for Arsenal to stamp a claim with 6 games to go that we're in the position to take this league title. And I don't know if it's the words in your hands that we all like just straight away shit the bed. We're just like, oh, it feels like we're a chaser team. When we're chasing something, we're in it and we're good for it. When we're there and it's within our grasp, we shit the bed. There's not many teams that can say they bottled the league twice in a row, and we're getting to that place. I know this is not a bottle. I don't want to like.
I don't think we're bottling it.
No, because I don't think you can even
5-point lead and throwing it away.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 3-horse race that we're still in. Let's not get away from that fact. But we are, and you touched upon it. We're competing here with a juggernaut. We're competing here with a doped up 115 charged club with riches so good that when their centre backs are injured, and let's like Garviol or however you pronounce his name is coming off their bench, and they're acting like, we got our backup centre back. This guy cost 70 million quid. He's more than all of our defensive unit, like almost put together. Like it's criminal that that we can go and kind of lose. They can lose their starting centre backs and get that. We are losing. I think we talked about this last time. We replaced with Rob Holding when we were down at centre back, and that's the difference. You're competing with an absolute beast that is not going to drop any points.
Hey, Rob did his job yesterday. Crystal Palace won. I don't think he played.
He must have been. I think we said that he's probably got in the ear saying, "I'll let you touch my FA Cup winners medal," or you can go and talk to Win the dog if you put in a result for us here. Either one of those 2 things would be good for me.
Look, there's a question that I know that we joke about it, but genuinely, say you win this league title this year, and then the 115 charges stuff comes up at the end of the year, because that's got to be sorted at some point. Because they're doing Everton. They're doing Forest. They got to do City as well, right? They can't just leave it.
Honestly, I can't. I know, but then you got Chelsea too. I honestly believe sometimes some of these clubs they feel they're too big They can do what they want because there'd be no repercussions for them. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to kind of, but it's just it just stinks. It really does stink when some of the stuff you read, and then you're it's not a level playing field, and you've got Arteta and Edu who are trying their best to kind of stick within the confines of the rules to find other teams that aren't. And it's not like we don't have the money, that we could easily do the exact same things, and we're just not.
Well, that's what I would say. You just say screw it, right? I think we were saying this yesterday. Like, go to the FA or Premier League. Go. We want answers. What is happening with this? Do these rules apply? Because if they don't, then chuck the money on the table and buy whoever we want.
It's just like flaunting it, and that's like anyway. I don't want to get away from the fact, right, that City is City, and they're going to do what they're going to do, and I don't want it to detract from the fact that Villa played a great game here tactically, and they won the game. We lost it. We were talking in the ground, kind of going. Martinez was taking his time over goal kicks as an example, as he's done before, and we were getting frustrated with it. And it was a game plan, no doubt about it. But at the same time, that wasn't the reason why we lost.
It wasn't. I had a note on him that he left the club kind of on good terms in the way he did it, and then he just has obviously done what he's done ever since. It's made him a bit of an arch enemy with Arsenal fans. But I don't know if I like him as a goalkeeper. I just thought it was a wrong thing to sell him. We'd have saved 65 million. And yesterday I made a note which was he's going to come back to bite us. And then it was like save 1, save 2, save 3. I was speaking with a Villa fan when we were at football earlier. He was like, you didn't have to make any saves. You only made 1 save. And I was like, what game were you watching in the first half? I was
in the
like,
first half, I'm sure we had like 14 shots and like had 3 or 4 on target in the first half.
I was like, he's like, we could have put that game to bed, in my opinion, in the first half. I think some people were saying Arsenal when they're good in the first half. They were.
Well,
we played our usual game in the first half.
I want to talk about that because I do feel that it was certainly a game of 2 halves. In the first half, for me, we were, from what I mean, like I said, Jason said we were in the ground, so our view of the game maybe is slightly skewed somewhat because the in-ground experience compared to watching it on the TV is quite different. But do you feel that we did have the beating of them in the first half?
Absolutely. I mean, the multiple times Zinni had figured out how to put that ball over to Havertz through the channel, and it was coming up again and again and again. Trossard I can't believe he didn't bury that as well. Havertz had multiple chances. I mean, even Saka had a few chances. That one went past the near post, he could have whipped that. We had our chances, and we didn't take our chances. And you don't take your chances, we're punished. We've been saying a few times, not taking these chances might come back to bite us, and we've been riding it out and turning out that it didn't come back to bite us in previous games. We've been scoring adequately still, but there was always going to be one game where it came back to bite us. This was the game.
Are you saying maybe it's like the law of averages that will just say that we rode our luck a little bit for a period of time through those games, and this is the one that is finally caught up with us?
Yeah, I think so. But then, there's something that sits in my head. Maybe it's not the right. No, I'm going to say it. We lost 5 games now this season. The only thing that tells me we're not good enough to win the title is I don't think a team that wins the league should lose 5 games in a season.
Well, not just losing 5 games out of Everton. Out of Villa and Fulham, we got 1 point from 12. That's criminal. Absolutely criminal. There's no way that you can expect to win the league and drop those kind of points.
We lost to Villa twice. We lost to West Ham. We lost to Newcastle. We lost to Fulham. It's not even like we're losing to City or Liverpool or United or Chelsea or Spurs. Like, we have lost to these. That's where we lost the league. And I was saying it like we've lost the league. We haven't. We're still in it. It could happen. But it's also not the way I want to win a league title as well. Does that make sense? I don't want to. Obviously, I'll take the league title, but I don't want us to. That's embarrassing. Losing.
I talked to a Liverpool fan, and he's been very much talking about Liverpool being very fragile this season, very similar to what I just said about catching up with them. That's what he said about Liverpool. Liverpool have just been riding it out, getting sneaky results, and it's finally caught up with them. And like he said, he also said the same words that you just said. It's embarrassing if they won the league. And it kind of calls back a little bit to like Leicester was a fairy tale story, but let's not beat around the bush. It was quite an embarrassment to the rest of the teams that they allowed them.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be winning that league, and they did.
Spurs that year should have won it. We should have won it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so this is where I understand where you're coming from. I don't think I fully balls in with the idea that I wouldn't take it because I'll be down Holloway Road half naked if we win the league. I can tell you for now. That's something for you to look forward to, Jace. But yeah, I know that it's. I get where you're coming from because it's even like if you even go back down a layer from that, like we drew with Chelsea, we drew with Spurs, and I know that we're going to play Chelsea at home next week. There's an opportunity there. We got Spurs away, but really we should have beat Spurs at home because it was at the time when they were playing proper Ange high line stupidity that we should have really done them.
Yep. So we've left a lot of points on the table this year, more than I think we left on the table last year as well, which is even more disappointing.
All right. There's going to be loads to get into. And I think maybe I'm talking about the left-hand side because there's lots of different things to discuss down our left-hand side that felt very different and problematic in this game in particular. Whether you want to talk about the left back, Jace, whether you want to talk about what would be the left wing, what do you want to talk about down that left-hand side?
Well, part of it, there's so many things I could talk about here. Granit Xhaka just won the league. Chapeau. Tap my hat off to that man. We missed him yesterday. He's like we talked about this. If you're going to play Jesus down the middle, then you have got to have a specific element of joining up that left side. And Xhaka was critical last year to joining up that left side. Havertz doesn't do the Xhaka role in that number 8 position. And we didn't have a Martinelli. We didn't have Zinni coming up and doing what he was doing with Martinelli and Xhaka last season. So that left side was ultimately flawed. And the thing did not join up. It did not connect. So much that it was just Zinni to Havertz over the top in the first half direct. And then that was it. Trossard is not... We say this every time. He doesn't start well. If he comes off the bench yesterday, he scores. But if he starts, he doesn't play great. It's not the Trossard that we love when he comes off the bench. He doesn't like to drive like Martinelli. He doesn't drive at the wing back. He didn't have the beating of the wing back yesterday so much that every time he cut in. And when there was a chance to play a forward pass where he should make the forward run behind the defender, he didn't do it because he didn't have the beating of the defender. So that's the problem with the left side I looked at yesterday. It was a lack of attacking threats on that left side at times. We still had chances that we should have taken, but the usual Arsenal we've come to love on that left-hand side, I feel that's been missing for some time. We've been riding it out by playing a different way, right? With Havertz, we've been very reliant on the Saka, Odegaard, Ben White connection, and then we've been very reliant on Trossard coming off the bench and scoring a goal as well. But actually, if you talk about the team that starts from the left-hand side of the field, not performing and delivering the results that I think we expect. We're not delivering definitely the numbers that we're expecting from that left-hand side. And that's a problem that needs fixing urgently. If we're going to have anything from the rest of the season. We can't be completely reliant on one side of the field.
You mentioned to me off the cuff yesterday as well that Trossard and his ability was very similar to Saka. There's usually when Martinelli plays, he offers something different to Saka on both sides. So you kind of get that driving at the byline. Do you feel that playing them both is too predictable?
Well, yeah, because you've got two similar wingers. So Martinelli and Saka are different because Saka will cut in on his left. That's what he does. He does get to the byline as well, and he'll do a cut back, a pass across. But majority of the time, he does look to cut in. Whereas Martinelli, he is direct and he runs at defenders. We need that those two differences are complementary. Trossard, in my opinion, is too close to Saka because he doesn't run and he always cuts in. It's just, it didn't offer anything different. And the only difference was that on the right-hand side, you've got Saka and Odegaard doing their thing. There's no one doing that thing on the left-hand side. So then he just feels even more null and void in that position. It was, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right yesterday.
Yeah, like you said though, before the game, you look at the starting lineup and you're kind of like,
yeah, okay.
We predicted wins. We looked at that lineup. There's enough in there. You know, Villa are missing probably one of their most integral players in Douglas Luiz. It's really odd. I said to somebody else that it felt like we just forgot how to play football in the second half.
Oh, well, I mean, let's not even get into the second half.
Or maybe we will.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, go on. Talk about Zinni, because that's on my left-hand side, right? We've got to talk about some elements of his performance too.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem for me because I am quite a stalwart defender of Zinchenko. I know on this pod we've talked quite a lot about his defensive frailties, and they were all on show here today. And this is not just, I've brought up a stat before plenty of times where like he doesn't get dribbled on, and I think when he gets dribbled on, Jason, you always turn to me and go and just look at me with those eyes. You did, and I got really like, I was like, what can I say? But it's like, honestly, he was a liability yesterday, an absolute liability. His spatial awareness, more than anything for me, was the bit that was totally inept. We've seen, I'm sure everyone has seen the replays of him playing Bailey onside, where he's completely disjointed from the rest of our defensive unit. We usually play a very, very aggressive high line together. And you just look across those players, you can literally see Gabriel, Saliba, White, and then Zinchenko is just like in fairyland doing something else. And it just doesn't. There are certain games, and he came on against Bayern, and this is the problem. He came on against Bayern and he transformed that Bayern game for us because we had more stability over that game. We had more control. But it feels like Zinchenko is like a relic of old Arsenal. It's like we have matured. Arteta loves control. He talked a lot this season about suffocation of teams and being able to starve other teams of possession of the ball to the point where they can't get out and we control the games. And that's been our style of play in 2024. Bearing in mind, this is our first loss of 2024, right? But Zinni, maybe our first Premier League loss for sure. If it's not anything else, but like Zinchenko just feels like we've matured beyond him, and yet we're still using him in that same way that we have previous season. Like him and Jesus, and we'll get on to Jesus, I'm sure, elevated us to a place, but now we have matured beyond that place, and it just feels like Kiwior is not the answer. I'm not saying Kiwior is the answer, but it was working. And I just don't understand, unless you're protecting him for Bayern.
So here's the question.
Go on.
Would you have started Tomiyasu?
This is the thing, because I did wonder this. Up until 60 minutes, would we have gone as hard on Zinchenko as we are right now? I'm not too sure we would.
We wouldn't have if we'd have taken our chances. And he hadn't made the mistakes he made.
No, but his mistakes didn't cost the goals, bearing in mind. I know a lot of people are making a big deal about the fact as well that he kicked the ball out when one of their players got taken down. And it's like, what are you doing? We're trying to win the league. Why are you kicking the ball out?
Yeah, we were all livid at that.
I know, but like,
in the moment,
players that have done it before him. I know, but like,
but we were
the
in
referee.
The attacking third.
I know, but the Villa had kind of stopped, and it was kind of like, you've talked about class in Arsenal and doing the right thing. That kind of feels like I'm with that in some of the way. My point I'm trying to make is that if Zinchenko was taken off at 60 minutes and we went to Tomiyasu just to offer us a bit more stability, knowing that Zinchenko usually doesn't play a whole game, would we be telling a different story here? And that for me is partly Arteta's game management. I'm not forgiving Zinchenko. He was incredibly poor this game and deserves not the slander and threats that he's getting, but certainly the fact that he didn't have a great game. But once again, I kind of pull back to some in-game management for me was relatively poor. We we were standing next to a lot of fans that are like, why are we not changing this up? This system is not working. They were all over us at the start of that second half. I mean, the guy in front of us was annoying, but like we had control of the first half, and as soon as nothing changed in the second half, tactically, John McGinn might have played a little bit higher at the pitch from a Villa standpoint, but we looked totally inept.
So I agree with the game management. The thing is, Arteta changed something. He could have changed something still, but he made the wrong change, in my opinion. So the reason I asked you the Tommy Yasu question, right? So if you didn't want to play Kivior because he's keeping him for Bayern, let's assume that that's what he's doing because he seems to be starting the game, big games, even though he got taken off against Bayern because he got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
Who dealt with Salah this season? Who dealt with Salah last season? Tommy Yasu. So who's a centre back by trade for the Japanese national team? What's the formula that we've observed Man City have cottoned onto, and now we're cottoning onto?
All centre backs.
All centre backs. So fine, make the change, but don't play Zinchenko there, because we talked about this previously. What you said, it's not the first time we've said this about Zinchenko. We have gone a level. He has a place in the squad. His place in the squad was validated when he came on against Bayern. He can bring something different in a certain utility role in the moment.
But let's be. I want to just because you mentioned it at the start of the pod, but you did mention something because you said obviously he threaded that ball through to Havertz twice, maybe 3 times. If Havertz is finishing off those goals and we're 2-0 up in the first half, we're talking a whole different ball game.
Yeah, we are, but it didn't happen. So.
I know, but it's fine margins, right? This is why I'm like I said, I'm a defender of Zinchenko. I really do like him. I love what he offers us. It's a different dynamic to how he usually sets up, but it's fine margins. And you're right, he got absolutely roasted, and his positional and spatial awareness is completely kaput. But you could be talking a whole different game here if something was just slightly tweaked.
Potentially, yeah, you're right. We could be. There's the interesting thing is look at how he came on and changed the game and controlled really parts of the midfield against Bayern. He tried to do that a little bit against Villa, but he did it at the wrong time because it wasn't just spatial awareness.
Are you talking about them trying to nutmeg Tielemans on the edge of the box when we were trying to get out?
But he did that multiple times, both ends, in both halves. What the F are you doing? Do not F around with the ball around your 18-yard box. And he lost it 2 or 3 times. I was livid. Like, that's just basics. Pass it out wide, boot it out clear. Whatever you do, just don't mess around with it there. And that was what really made me angry because that's the basics that he should just know. You're part of an Arteta Arsenal squad. You should just know to do better there. And for me, it's like, is no one shouting man onto him? Because it wasn't about spatial awareness. It was about awareness of time you have on the ball. You did not have that time on the ball. They were on him every time.
I do think the Villa exploited Zinchenko. I think he was identified as a clear weakness in our setup, and it worked a treat for them. You know, they came up with a game plan. They set out really, really well. They were defensively, like I put a thing here that this really stood out to me. They were able to play through our press very easily. There's not many teams that have done that to us and able to play through our press. I think some of it has to do with the fact that Odegaard had to be taken off Wow. We'll get into it, but like that, I do feel that difference.
Game changed. That was when we like in reflection. That's when we struggled from then onwards.
Yeah, I mean, well, before we get onto the subs, then I do want to talk about. We did touch upon it, like Jesus. I think because it would have been, potentially he could have been the left-hand side if Havertz is playing up top, and potentially that means Jorginho could have been in there. But I think we looked at each other multiple times during this game with Jesus. It's like his pace is completely gone. There was one where we were like, why is he not running through on goal? And then we saw during this game, I think you wrote offside, because he was. There was another game this season. I can't remember which game it was, but we talked about it a lot. because he was offside at every single opportunity. And the commentator made a point to say, Jesus is this striker that sits on the edge of the line and is always kind of creeping on that edge. It's like, no, he's not. He literally is either way offside. Yeah, I think it was. And he scored that excellent goal. It's annoying. But it's like the two sides of Jesus. It's like he was offside far too many times during this game. He literally had no pace. And I feel his performance here was completely criminal. For me, it was disgusting. It just wasn't a striker worthy of an Arsenal moniker. It just doesn't. And look, we knew it. We've seen it not work. We've seen him not be able to play as a striker many games. I think he scored 4 goals this season for us in the Premier League. That's insane. Absolutely insane numbers. Like, name another club where you've got that type of output. You wouldn't find it.
He has never been the same player since that injury last year for Brazil. When he joined, do you remember the bursting through the Palace defence in like the first game of the season? Just the pace, the aggressiveness, the link-up play with Martinelli. Where is that player? Who I after the World Cup, we have never seen that player since. That's a year and a half, pretty much, since we have seen that player. Now he's had
not
injuries
even only
on,
that, like he runs a lot as well. Like all that pressing that he used to do, and he gets about the pitch. He used to be not just his runs and scoring, but he was super aggressive in getting around the pitch and the press. Like what Odegaard does right now, Jesus was a real component of that press, and he was just, I don't know what to say to you.
Do you know? I'm going to tell you this. There's 2 big for sale signs at Arsenal, and above both our strikers.
The problem is, who wants to buy? It's not going to be in the Premier League, put it that way.
We should have sold Eddie when we had the chance, when the money was on the table for him. We didn't take it.
Yeah.
And Jesus is not the level. And now we've got Havertz. We need someone to go alongside him, and we need a winger.
And a left back.
No, we don't need a left back. We've got Timber. We've got Tommy Asu.
I knew you were going to say that.
And we've got playing Kivior. But we don't need a left back. You might end up buying another centre back to supplement the players that are now going to be playing left back and right back. But I think we were saying yesterday the focus in the transfer window this season has to be in the attacking third. Has to be. We've built the wall. We've been very unlucky with Timber and the injury this year. Tomiyasu having to go away and play for Japan at a vital time during the season. But we've built strong foundations. We need to finish it off with teams with players that can take their chances against teams, because certain players are just, we bought them in to take us to the level. They've kind of added a benefit, and now we've surpassed them. Because Jesus isn't the level for City, and we want to be at City's level. So why should he be the level for us? It's not a criticism of him personally. It's just where we're at. It's just a reality. City were happily selling him to Arsenal. So,
I mean, it's because
that tells you something, right?
They kind of knew, right, as well. That is, I think they know that he's not at the level that they needed him to be.
Yeah.
Right, I want to. We've touched upon it, and let's get onto it, because this is what transformed the game ultimately for us. It was, and we talked about in-game management, and it was the substitutes that really determined the outcome of this game in both dugouts, to be honest. But where do you want to start, Jace? Because there's a lot of badness to pick from in terms of the substitutes that we made. Some that we had to make, some that we maybe didn't have to make. What do you want to talk about here? What do you feel is the worst of the bad bunch?
Well, I just want to start by saying Mikel got it wrong. That's the first time I probably say Mikel got something. He comes back to his game management again, but this is another element of the game that he didn't manage well. The subs were not the right subs at the wrong time. I want to know the extent of this Odegaard situation, because the game died when we took him off. And the only person I've seen come on as a sub creatively this season and change a game, take the ball by the horns. There was that one game we were there, and Fabio Vieira took the game by the horns. and he has this different burst of creativity. I really hope that what you said last week is not the case with Smith Rowe and that we're window dressing, and that he's actually genuinely showing something in training that means he's been picked over Fabio Vieira to come off the bench. But yesterday, his performance. Are you playing for you've got the number 10 shirt. You play for Arsenal. You're wearing the number 10. Like the legacy that sits with that shirt. Many teams number 10 shirts as legacy with it. But understand the urgency of the situation that you have come into. We are going for the league title. You are wearing the number 10. We need to score to take the points. And I saw nothing of what was required. I saw no creative flair. I mean, he doesn't always do that. And the only time I remember him really showing creative flair was when he was on the left. I didn't see urgency. I didn't see sometimes the tracking needed. I mean, with the exception of chasing Ollie Watkins down and then failing to tackle him, unfortunately, and him scoring. The first goal, I believe he was at fault for not pressing hard enough to put the ball out to the wing and it whipped it in for Bailey. He didn't look at the races. Now you could argue he's coming off as a bench, give him a chance. Yeah, that's fair enough. But look, I don't think he has a career at Arsenal, and that makes me so sad because I love him and I wanted him to be the next Jack Wilshere. Like there's it just felt so good him and Saka coming through at the same time. But the reality is that we can't afford to carry players in the squad in the same way that Arsenal used to carry players in the squad. We have to be more cutthroat. We kept on Rosicki, Diaby, Wilshere, because these were Arsenal people and we felt we owed something to them. And Mikel has echoed that sentiment to an extent, but I'm sorry. If we need to be where we are, there's no place in the squad for that. I want, we're bringing in an attacking midfielder, maybe as well because why is Fabio not good enough? What's wrong with Fabio right now? Why is he not playing? Is this something about his development, like a Phil Foden situation, where we're not we need to develop him to the point where he'll be ready? Because he does look like there are sparks there. So it's not like we've not seen nothing.
Yeah,
but I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. For me, I'm like, that was one example of a sub for me that was just really poor.
Do you because there was one bit in there particular, I think you mentioned it, like ESR, he just looked tired before he'd even kicked the ball. I think the first goal, like you say, he didn't press and he just looked like he didn't care. Like, I don't need to try here. It's not my responsibility. I don't know what it was, if it's his responsibility or not, but it just felt like he wasn't involved in the game. You literally just come on. It's 5 minutes into the game for him.
I mean, I that doesn't care. He's tired. It's hard to judge, especially if we were sat right. We were very high up yesterday compared to where we usually sit. So we weren't close enough to the ground to see more of the body language and facial reactions. What I look at is the energy in the movement. And the energy in the movement wasn't there. The tracking, you can assess those things from the high when you've got a big view of the pitch. You can see how players are moving around. And that for me that's the bare minimum what you expect in that position. We're chasing the game. There's nothing.
I mean, when he came on, though, it was 0-0.
Yeah, but we're still chasing the game in 0-0. We need the win. We need a top of the league.
True. We took off Ben White at like 60, 65, 70 minutes, somewhere in that region for Tomiyasu. Like I've already said, the Zinchenko for me is the one that stands out as the player you should have taken off. There's an element that you're saying that you maybe want to protect Ben White ahead of Bayern Munich because he's the one that's had probably the most success in that on that wing with Saka and particularly with Alphonso Davies being out as well. But like I say, maybe Arteta did get it wrong because him as well as the Martinelli sub for Trossard. Martinelli was completely invisible in his cameo, in my opinion.
What's happened?
I don't know. I can't I'm not in the player's head, but what you can see is he just doesn't seem to be the same player. He's not doing the same things. He's not trying the same things. Some of his pace, he used to beat players for fun, and it looked like he can't beat anybody right now. But even like I said, and many of our issues stemmed from that left hand side. He wasn't getting a great deal of service, and partly, Erdegaard he's the metronome of this team. When he is out, we are completely, and I think we've seen this before. There was a game where he was injured for 1 or 2 games. He was injured for, I can't remember if it was this season or last season, where when we don't have him, we are devoid of creative ideas. He is the lockpick that we need to do everything that we do. And when he came off, whether it's injury or otherwise, you've got to hope that it's not. And he was just, we don't want it to worsen because we need him for the run-in. We need him for the buy-in game. And that's my hope. As soon as he came off, we were just a different. It wasn't like we were having a great second half anyway, but I think those changes really dismantled our system, and I think Villa really did able to exploit our weaknesses to the fullest extent when we made those changes. They were able to get in much easier. They were able to take more opportunities, and we ultimately paid the price. We played quite a criminally high line as well.
Yeah.
And like knowing full well that they were getting in, because it's not like this was when Ollie scored the second. It wasn't like we hadn't had warning signs that they were going to get back into this game. That Tielemans one that hit the bar, then the post, should have been enough to tell us that we were in a problem state here and we needed to sit back a bit.
Every time we made a mistake, Villa took the opportunity, and ultimately they hit the target each time. They were just unfortunate that hit both 2 shots at the post. There was one in the first half, right? It was the only thing they had in the first half was Ollie hitting the post right off the bounce off Gabriel's back.
Yeah, they countered on us though, right? They were counter-attacking. Every time they got in, it was counter-attacking football. And it's like I said, the warning signs were there. And it's like we were just completely blind to them. It's like we didn't acknowledge that they were a good. I do feel there's an element here as well that we underestimated them. And we've actually done that quite a few times this season, thinking that we're probably better than we are.
Yeah, I think we think we're better in Villa, and I think we feel that we could sweep them aside. And I think we thought that. I mean, you think about the video we put up for the game when we were announcing the lineup. We both thought that we were going to sweep them aside quite comfortably. We didn't think it'd be a thrashing, but we thought it'd be like a 2-0, 3-1. We were confident. Because the way we're playing, the way we've been playing, and Villa got spanked by Spurs. So, I mean, it shows the this league is just unpredictable. But we held ourselves to higher standards, and we didn't meet those standards yesterday. We've become so used to, especially in 2024, a level of performance from Arsenal, which a lot of the times is putting the game to bed before it's even needs to get into the squeaky bum time. But we didn't meet our standards yesterday. That's the problem. As I said, this is about squad depth. This is about game management. This is about things that get us over a line to a title. These are the learning curve experiences that we're still getting when you're fighting for a title. And I think we just had another one yesterday. Because it's not like last season where we were missing 2 big players in Partey and Saliba, and we were exhausted because we'd been on it the whole year, and we just kind of just ran out of gas. We've got gas at the moment. We just weren't consistent.
Yeah, I am totally with you on that point there. I think that is we had excuses last year. We had reasons to say why it happened. We have no excuses this year. We've been singing the praise of the fact that we have a fully fit squad for the first time in a long, long time. We have everybody back in training. We have everyone available. And that's why I do have to put some of the game management and in-game management down to Arteta and maybe mistakes that he made during this game as to why we lost it. And that ultimately would probably come down to maturity. Again, like I say, young manager, first job. it happens. And this is how you learn and you adapt and grow. But I want to leave you, before we get onto the parking lot, Jess, I want to leave you, because we've talked about that we're probably not in this anymore, but I'm going to leave you with a nugget just to give you a spark, all right? Just to give you a taste. I'm going to say City don't play another match now till the 24th of April or around that time. We're actually going to be in Vegas for their second game against Forest, which is going to be interesting. But they don't play that game. By that time we play, we're going to play Wolves this weekend, and we're going to play Chelsea following that. We're going to play twice before City play. There's an opportunity here for us to be 4 points clear and put some pressure on Man City ahead of their games. Now, Man City have 4 away games left. They've kept just 1 clean sheet in their last 9 Premier League away games. They've only won 1 of their last 3 away at Brighton. They drew away at Forest last season, and they've never won, and they've not even scored at Spurs' new stadium. So there is a glimmer of hope, Jace, and it's the hope that kills you.
That kills you. Yeah, look, it's City. It's City, the juggernauts. City will annihilate everyone in their path in the next 6 games, I believe. That doesn't mean that we've lost the league, because we have to do our job. Our job is win every single game to the end of the year. 6 cup finals. Literally.
Yeah, we had 7.
Finals,
We've already slipped on a banana skin, Jace.
Yeah, but my point is, this isn't 6 cup finals as in the saying, oh, it's just 6 cup finals. Like, no, get it into your effing heads. It is like, you have no option but to win. A draw is not good enough here. If you draw 1 more game, it is over, I think. We have a job to do. We have to do it. And we also have to hope that City drop points. And history tells me they won't. At this time of year, they flick a switch. They're a robot in a mode. They won't. And that's the thing. It was in our hands. Now it's out. That's where we're at.
Well, with all that confidence and bravado, let's move on to a buying game that we've got on Wednesday. What's your head and your heart telling you with this game, Jace? At the Allianz Arena, Wednesday evening. We're going into that game 2-2, no away goals. What's going to happen?
Jeez, I don't know now. I genuinely don't know. And the reason is because this is a new experience for us, for Arteta, for the squad. It's not. How does your league mentality, motivation, the vibe within the squad influence a game in Europe? I'd like to think it's completely separated and got nothing to do with it. And we were in a great chance to get through to the semi-final in Europe, and we just go for it. That's what we have to do. That's the way I look at it. But I just really hope that the league performance doesn't have an influencing kind of slightly open wound on Wednesday night. And I think we have to ignore that. Obviously, we've got questions about Odegaard. We've got questions about Ben White's fitness after them both being subbed. I'm assuming that was precautionary and that they'll be fit and starting. And then we have to play the squad that we know works. And I don't know what the score is going to be. I genuinely don't know. My heart wants to say we get a 2-1 win. But I think it's going to be tight. Really tight.
Yeah. I'm with you. The problem is my head is going back to Arsenal are not very good at losses. This is the first time we've been behind this calendar year, and you've seen how we've dealt with it. In previous times where we've gone and lost a game, we usually go into a bit of a mini slump. We've not been very good at adjusting, and we have mental fragility when it comes to these type of occasions. I just don't know if we can compartmentalize within our own selves and our own brains to contextualize the situation. Like I say, I do feel that form from the Premier League carries on the psyche of our players. Young squad group, right? And I'm not like, as a young individual yourself, Jace, I'm not going to call myself young by any means. Like, every failure in life is a learning opportunity and a time to grow and be more resilient in future Jason and future Grav and future Arsenal players, right, to do better. So you've got to hope that they look at it as an opportunity to understand where it went wrong and what to do. You know, and Bayern have been beaten at home. They're not the Bayern of old. And like I said, we talked on the preview pod when we were talking about the last game that this is not 5-1. We're not going to get spanked, I don't think. But do we have enough to get it over the line is the question mark for me. And I just like, I'd love it to be, because I do feel that coming second or third in the league and getting to the semi-final of the Champions League is a successive season for us. I'd love to win either or, but you know, if it's not going to, only one team can win the Premier League, only one team can win the Champions League. That's just the way it is, and it doesn't necessarily have to be us. It'd be great if it was, but I do feel that those two things together sets ourselves, like we've still got a lot of squad stuff to do. So whether we do it or not, I'm like you, I don't know. I can't decide. And Jason's got all gloomy that it's gone all dark in his room.
There
we go. He's back again.
The timers on the hue lights go off at 11 o'clock. We're recording late.
So I'm not going to ask you for a prediction, Jace, because I don't want you to think about it yet if you don't want to, because I can't think of it either. My head's not in the right frame of mind to feel like I can give it and do it justice. I do feel that doing this pod 24 hours after this game has allowed us to be a bit more objective about that game. I think if we had recorded this yesterday, emotional carried on this might have creeped in, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think so. That line up, I'm assuming you reckon the same team that started against Bayern starts against Bayern again?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
So was that'll be Havertz through the middle? Was that Jesus left wing? Because bearing in mind that Jesus is usually pretty good in Champions League. His record in Champions League and his games in Champions League have been far better than his Premier League record, for sure.
You should just go play for Real Madrid then.
Well, we might, Jace. Yeah, so we got that to look forward to. Maybe. Let's wait and see.
Yeah. Right. Here's to Wednesday. Fingers crossed.
Here's to Wednesday. We'll hopefully be recording some point after that game, hopefully jubilantly, as Arsenal march their way into the semi-final of the Champions League. And we look forward to a Wolves game on Saturday as well. So if you are listening to this and you've got all the way to the end, well done you. Please do give this video a like, give the channel a subscribe. And Jace, if they're on their podcast provider of choice, what do we want our guys and girls to do?
Subscribe to the feed. Make sure you get the latest episode in your Apple Pods or Spotify Pods at the moment we release. Please give us a 5-star review, 5 stars no less, as Grevers always say. And leave an actual review if you fancy it. We always like to read.
Nice. So we'll see you again in the week. Come on, you Rip Roaring Reds.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.